Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Hatha Yoga podcast. I'm Kelsey, and I'm your host today. And every episode for the foreseeable future, we'll be having some guests coming on soon too. I need to get my shit together and actually line them up and set it up. But I do have some really lovely guests lined up for us. So I just need to take some action. So, yes, I am coming at you today with kind of an off topic, but I guess nothing's really off topic if we're talking about real life and our human experience. Because then that is the holistic part of holistic hatha yoga, is understanding the whole self and our humanness and beyond our humanness and understanding that part as well. So, yeah, let's just break into it. So I really wanted to do this episode on what I'm seeing around me, which is honestly it's wild. I mean, the last episode was probably not like the happiest, and I know I had some really sad energy, but also like we have to have our own hope, our own light, and we have to follow that light and nurture that light as we move through these dark times. So, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're drinking enough water. I hope you're seeing the sunlight. I hope you have a warm shelter and water that's clean at your disposal. And bonus if you get hot water instantly, because that's also a gift. So just taking a moment of gratitude here before we really settle in and jump into the topic at hand, which is essentially what I'm calling or seeing as the spiritual drought. I don't know a nicer way to say it other than a spiritual drought that I just see all around. And it's not everywhere, but it's definitely throughout. And I think a lot of people can probably maybe relate with that. But essentially what I'm seeing is that and I mean, I'm yeah, it's wild. But basically what I'm seeing is throughout the ages, at least like in America, we're going to bring up just, I know I just said ages and like America's not even as old as an age. But anyway, um, like there was, I mean, one, America is kind of a weird, place to really start talking about societal norms from, because we are such a baby country and we are made of so many different cultures, that to say that there was one true way of doing things here would only be true if you were a Native American. So that's like a very small percentage of Americans. So yeah, so we're kind of an interesting group over here in the US of A. Um, to where a lot of our ancestors before us did bring their religions with them and began churches and practicing and things here. But there's also just been a lot of evolution of the church and of different religions and this, that, the other, that have been brought in. And then also throughout time, people have seen, you know, what I'm a firm believer that whenever there's like mass power at stake or at hand, there can also be mass corruption. It's just kind of a natural. It, it's kind of saying like, I don't know. It's human nature that sin and or like the temptation to gain power is always there, and eventually some people do break to that, and then lots of bad and terrible things can happen, and that's where things will happen out of like evil and negativity and dark energy. And so kind of relating to my last episode, like our job as yogis or our job as a spiritual practitioner is to be like a being of light or a being of love and move from that place and be confident in that connection that we have with ourselves and everybody else around us and our world, to be confident that it will be okay. It might get very, very dark, but it will be okay. I was having a conversation the other day and I was like, I literally feel like we're living in the Lord of the Rings. We are fighting Mordor right now. This is fucking wild. It is the age old tale of good versus evil. And, But, that's what we're here for. Like, we are all here for this time. Like, that's what we came here for. We are all very, very powerful creators and beings, um, and that's why we're here at a time of such change. And so we've seen humanity, thousands of years ago was completely centered around spirituality, and food, shelter, water, all of that came next, most important, but like also the most important thing was your spiritual connection. As we went through time, and then there's been tons of bloodshed over religion, in the sake of religion and God and who's right, who's wrong, which one's correct. And it's like, we're all correct. We're all talking about the exact same thing here. We're all talking about the same thing here. Sorry, I got interrupted by my rude barking dog. Anyway, um, so, um, yeah, so over time, yeah, there's been tons of bloodshed over who's right, who's wrong, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, like all over the world, a lot of these prophets are all talking about the exact same thing. They're all talking about that inner voice, that inner knowing, that connection to everybody and everything around us. Call it God, call it the universe, call it universal consciousness, call it unity, call it spirit, soul, light, love, whatever you want to call it. But we're all talking about the same thing. I'm a very firm believer of that. And so as long as we are all moving in the right direction, and by right direction, I mean moving from a place of love and a place of connection to our spirit and to the higher good of all, as long as our actions are aimed towards the highest good, and the highest good for you will always be the highest good of all. And when I say you, I don't mean like egotistical you. I mean like what's good for the goose is good for the gander type thing. Like usually what is best, if you're taking care of your highest self, of your spiritual self, then you can take care of everybody else around you or the things around you. You can contribute in your highest good. And then, others, as long as they're also connected to their highest self and they're working from their highest self, like only good can come from that. So that's what I mean as far as like what's in your highest good is for the highest good of all. Because as long as you're moving from a spiritually sound place, typically then your actions are aligned. This isn't to say you're always perfect, and like I said, we're humans, we make mistakes, but to be able to come back with grace and apologize when we're wrong, or if we snap at our kids, which I'm totally guilty of. I have 3 kids and they can drive me absolutely bonkers sometimes. But, to understand when you're feeling overwhelmed or whatever and be like, okay, we're taking a breath. And hey, I'm a bit overwhelmed because you're all screaming at me right now. Can we take a breath, please? And then let's calmly discuss what we need right now. Like just taking things down a notch so that everybody can be at their highest level. And I have just, like, there's so much anxiety and depression and sadness and such that is in the modern day society. I will just speak for the United States, but I'm sure it can be related in other first world countries where we have so much at our fingertips, like electricity and plumbing and things of that nature. And so we have a lot of extra energy. But, with this whole evolution of religion, we then hit technology and all these people, are like, oh, the spiritual stuff is like, it's just energy or it's, electricity or it's, lightning or whatever, like, I feel like people kind of tried the same time that technology and things were being invented, people kind of tried to demystify and discount the religious side of life. And I don't know if it was Osho or a different Swami, some well-known Swami in the recent century or so had said something along the lines of like, Eastern life takes the spiritual life almost too far to where like, they don't care to not live in a house that doesn't leak or, just you can live on the streets, it's fine. It's like, no, you should still have like a shelter maybe. That could be nice. Don't renounce everything. But the Western world's gone to the complete opposite, where that's all they care about is the flashy car, flashy house, flashy vacations, this, that, the other, but they have no spiritual health. There's no interconnection. There's no doing things for the higher good or out of the goodness of your heart. It's all keeping up with the Joneses or an egotistical game, that, or a rat race, or, just very disconnected. And I think personally, from what I've seen, you know, pilgrims or immigrants, everything, all, whatever you want to say, that came from Europe and other parts of the country or other parts of the world to the United States. They established their religions and their churches and communities and such here, prior to technology. And then technology came into play, and the Industrial Revolution, World Wars One and Two, all these things. And a lot of people, there's a lot of, unveiling of corruption of the church, and a lot of, distrust in the church and in all systems, really, and a of turning away from spirituality, and I think a lot of the baby boomer era did turn away in a rebellion, and you have your flower children and such who are like, um, not that flower children are soulless or anything, like they found their own light for sure, but people who completely renounce the idea of spirituality and say, no, that's not even real, like there's an explanation for everything, blah, 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 blah. And then they're not participating in their local community. They're not showing up every Sunday in worship, and I'm not even, or just in a weekly basis of worship, because most practicing religions have some sort of weekly gathering of sorts, whether you're expected there once a week or twice a week. You do have a touch point with your community members who you're all there humbly serving the higher good and the higher power, and being in touch with that part of yourselves and your lives and your communities. Which is a very beautiful thing, whatever way you look at it. Like, that is a gorgeous thing, but sometimes things get muddied in the waters, or, people get turned off by corruption, as they should. But these things can naturally happen anywhere. But, because there's so many people, I mean, as when I was a kid growing up, there was not that many families who went to church every Sunday. There was a couple, and they were like the religious families, where they went to church every Sunday, but it was not nearly all my friends. It was definitely the minority that would go to church weekly, or make it like a situation in their lives, in their weekly lives, in their rhythms, And so that being said, you then have this big population or generation that, might be able to, have good friendships, or have good jobs, or complete degrees, or do whatever, but they don't really connect with their community members on a weekly basis, because they don't really know how or where, or they don't really touch in spiritually and see, like, where is this coming from, or where is that coming from, or maybe this unhappiness, what's going on here, have I walked enough today, like literally just the simple things. Have I drank water? Have I eaten? Have I slept enough? Like, a lot of these things a lot of our so-called ailments can be solved with simple habits, simple daily things that we do, such as drink enough water, eat well, get enough sleep, go to bed at a decent, consistent time. Just literally the simplest shit. Um, and so then you have, but like also, I don't feel like though that grouping of people is that depressed and crazy, because I do think a lot of them have their own sense of spirituality. They just don't practice it because they're not necessarily a Christian, or they're not necessarily this or that, the other. So you have that, but then you have like the next generation of people and children, and they're not seeing their parents go to church or practice their spirituality, even though their parents understand it in their own brain because they witnessed it from their parents or grandparents. So they already have their own firm understanding and are moving on. But now that their children are there and they're not really discussing it, they're not really practicing it physically, then you end up with all these children running around that really have not, like, children are so intuitive. So, like, they are obviously connected whether they understand it or not, but they don't understand the deeper connection. They don't understand what's going on there. And so you see all of this anxiety and depression because we're telling these kids, grow up, you get a job, you pay your bills, you do this, and that's life. And they're like, well, what's it all for? What do you mean? Oh my gosh, this is really overwhelming, and oh my God, and doomsday. And you have all these teenagers and all these kids who are like more depressed and anxious than any other generation you've ever had. And this is where I'm calling it like the spiritual drought, is because they don't understand. Nobody's talking to them about the spiritual side. Nobody's making them practice this. Nobody's having them get in touch with it. There's no idea of like other than just the general be nice to people. There's no idea of like, well, why be nice to people? It's like, no, like you are them. They are you. We are all in this together. We must move from a place of love and let's help out, versus like the ego being so connected to this person, this body, and how do I make myself the most comfortable always, all the time. And you have all these little egotistical maniacs running around trying to be comfortable all the time. To the point where like I have like friends whose, kids fall in this category of, the teenage whatever, and they've tried the medications already. And that's the other thing, is then these kids are getting put on like anxiety meds, antidepressants, whatever. And it's like, they're a child still. Like, they don't even have real responsibilities. They are already anxious and depressed in life just existing because they're not connected with this deeper spiritual self. They're not feeling this safeness or this spiritual protection or this okayness with life that you get when you understand it all and when you're really a part of it and you let those walls fall and you understand that we are part of the same light, and this is to some point kind of all just an illusion. Not to say that it's not here, because it is, and everything that's physical is here, but also like it's all reacting in relation to us and our intentions and the way that we are moving in the world. And, when you get down to an atom, it's mostly empty space. Like, it's mostly just energy. It's mostly just a few things moving around each other and grouping together. And then those things are attracted to this and holding on to that. And boom, 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 build a Lego set. And that's basically what we're living in. So change your energy and you can draw, that same energy towards you. And it really is as beautiful and as simple as that. And like when you're looking for support, that support will meet you there, as long as you're moving in a place of the highest good for all, because that's all we're trying to do here. It's literally all we're trying to do here is survive and have some fun doing it, and we keeping like our bodies are basically more or less like our temples, as cliche as that sounds. But when you really truly look at that and like, okay, this is a one hell of a tool I was given / created by the universe. And I have all of these things I can do, and I need to take care of this machine as well as possible, by feeding it well, by getting the proper sleep, by getting the proper exercise, so that I can be here and be present and be helpful and be part of this as long as I humanly possibly can, in a comfortable way, and comfortably in my body, healthily in my body. And so that's really what the practice of yoga is all about, it's that maintenance, the maintaining of the body for spiritual purpose, And so without the spiritual purpose behind it, it is daunting. It is scary. It is sad. And I can understand where these children are coming from. But the answer doesn't lie in an anxiety medication or a depression medication. It lies in these deeper conversations. It lies within meditation. It lies within reading about different religions until you find something that kind of clicks for you and makes sense to you, because not everything is for everyone. And a part of this, I was reading into, I'd opened up the Upanishads again, just to read them again. And those are it's a compilation of an ancient Indian text that was originally all given by audio, or like audio, like it's a download or something. Um, just auditory storytelling from one person to another. And it was basically just the enlightened thoughts that all of these rishis and sages and such had over the years. Basically, Brahma or the universe or God speaking to them and telling them what this is, what is the greater purpose of life, and their translation of it. And it is just, it's so beautiful. I think it's one of the most gorgeous texts because it's universal. It's about your lived human experience. It's not putting a different prophet on a pedestal and saying only they can attain that and that I can't, but like I'm gonna try. It's like, no, no, no. We're all human and we all can access these greater parts of ourselves and be in action. And that, in fact, is what those other people, those prophets, were doing. It just, that wasn't common at the time for people to do that. It was very much a survival reptilian brain still working in a lot of those people to where they just wanted, food, shelter, water. So for someone to put the spirituality on a pedestal and put spirituality first and really tap into the power of the unity or the unified field, that was like sorcery. That was some crazy shit, because this world is magical and it is intense and it is everything that you want it and need it to be, and so again, I just think if more of these kids were maybe like shown at least a little bit of spirituality, like I said, I'm not trying to indoctrinate anyone into any certain religion. I don't adhere to any certain religion. But that does not mean that I don't believe that we don't have a soul and we're not here for this larger purpose and all of the things, you know. And so I was reading the other night, and there was a excerpt that basically was talking about just our humanity and us and our spirituality, and it was saying, "He who sees all beings in the self and the self in all beings no longer hides in fear." And that's exactly what we're talking about, is like you lose that sense of anxiety once you understand that we're all part of this big web, and there's suddenly like a relief, because suddenly death isn't something that's like going to actually kill you. It's just a transformation into a different realm, a different portal, a different situation. It's exiting this body, but you're not just disappearing forever. Um, your ego and your body and that person is definitely dead. Don't get me wrong. But your essence, your whatever you want to call it, that Atman is what they call it, is like that little personal soul. And then Brahma um, is like the big situation. Um, like the entirety of it all. Um, and so just understanding that, like that fullness, that togetherness, I think is really what the world needs to understand at this point in time. Like to, it's time. It's time to awaken, as kind of dramatic as that sounds. Like it's time to awaken to our power and to our spiritual selves and to our communities, and to be in community with others in a spiritual way, whatever that way may be. And you know, like I had just said earlier, I don't adhere to a particular religion, so like it's not like I take my kids to church on Sunday and stuff. But like also I see the huge benefit of that, like because there's so many kids who don't understand how to just sit and not be entertained, Like they have zero patience. It's like, I need an iPad or I need a game or blah, 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 or I'm just going to run around and be disruptive then if I don't get what I want. And it's like, no, you're going to sit your ass down and shut up and listen. And, or if you're not going to listen, you're at least going to sit down and shut up and be respectful of others while they're speaking, you know? And not like that's the only thing they learn in a religious situation, but like, yeah, to sit down, to be quiet, to listen. Um, and So I was like, you know what? I'm done not having a place to do that. I'm just going to do it in my own living room. So I implemented spiritual Sundays with my children, and it's very chill. It's very lax. Um, we're usually just in our pajamas still. Because that's the other thing is on the weekends, I really love to just let my kids like relax and like just kind of take it easy because 5 days a week of school is a lot. So we really try to just take it easy on the weekends. So anyway, so our spiritual Sunday looks like me turning off the TV or whatever, gathering them in the living room, having them all find a comfortable seating position, and we start off with a little bit of just a little quiet time. We do our gratitude. So we do gratitude almost on a daily basis, I would say. I try to do that on the school run, like, all right, tell me 3 things you're grateful for. And that's like a daily situation. But yeah, so we start off our Sunday with a little bit of gratitude, and then um I do a reading. I laughed because my last one, I did not pre-read it, and it was an old Buddhist tale. And I was like, and it said for kids 4 to 7. So I was like, okay, this will be fine. This is like right up their alley, perfect age range. So I read the story, and basically the sad monkey king dies because he like sacrifices himself for his people. And my poor kiddos were just like, oh my God, this is intense. Like, oh, the poor monkey died. And I'm like, oh my God, the poor monkey died. And it was just, oh, it was kind of hilarious. But also it was like a good lesson in selflessness and whatever. But anyway, so we do some sort of reading, whether it's like a Buddhist philosophy or Hinduism or yoga or a story from the Bible or a story from Judaism. Like we'll cover like anything that's aligned and shows because there's so many stories to choose from. Because there's, like I said, I do believe there's truth in all, but some of it just gets all fucked up along the way. Um, but again, that's human nature, and we just need to weed through that. But yeah. So then we do like some sort of story, some sort of spiritual story, and then we come closer together, more of like in a circle, and we do a meditation. So like my kids are ages from 4 to 9, and um, so I just do 5 minutes. I set a timer for 5 minutes. They're expected to just close their eyes and be there and try to sit as still as possible, and blah blah blah. I kind of guide them through the first little bit, and then once they're chilled, then I start my 5 minute timer. And then we close it out. I'll do some sort of prayer or mantra and have them join in. Um, and then we just, yeah, close it out with some oming and om shanti 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 and kind of call it a day. So, um, but it is so cool because they get a lot from it, even though they're little squirmy wormies and they're like, why do we have to do this? I'm like, sit down and shut your mouths and listen to me. We're going to do this. And it's great. It's super great. I loved it and they loved it too. And they actually are looking forward to our spiritual Sunday time. And it was really cool. I had them like do a third eye activation. And I know it sounds like, oh, it's fancy. Like, no, literally all I did was while their eyes were closed, I just said, look up towards your third eye. And you can feel that kind of muscle up there towards that pineal gland. And you can kind of feel that third eye presence. And so I had them do that, and my 6-year-old, he loved it. He was like, whoa, I can feel it. That feels cool. And afterwards, they were like so chill. And I was like, yes, yes, friends, just relax. Like, it's all good. And there was just a sense of peace, a sense of contentment. And I think that is what we're really missing in the world is just like, stop fighting over like which religion, but let's make it clear that it is actually important for us humans in our evolution to be spiritually connected some way, somehow. Um, and I think if we can all start to look at it like that, we will start to see leaps and bounds for humanity. So just an Aquarius over here talking out my butt. But, it's crazy to see this spiritual drought, like I said, but I'm confident that with enough action from people and our higher selves, we can create that within our own homes, our communities, and kind of make it a better place for humanity. So in the dark, you still must shine light. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. I hope you all got something from this. And if anything, then if you're not practicing anything, but you kind of are curious, yeah, just try your own. Build your own thing. Have your own type of spiritual Sunday. Also, just feel free to, if you have any questions or want any guidance in that, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram at Holistic Hatha Yoga. You can also go to my website, and I think I've got a contact me form on there. So my website is holistichathayoga.com, and you can check that out and drop a contact form thing and just be like, hey, wanted a little help with this, that, the other, and I would love to help you out. But otherwise, I'll see you next week, friends. Take care, be well, and much love. One love. One love, one light. All right. We'll see you next week, friends. Bye. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om.